Consent decree monitor tells a federal judge NOPD manpower issues may be causing the department to regress. For the first time, the NOPD did not attend a consent decree hearing, causing the federal judge to express disappointment. Rob Masson has more.
Just moments after arguing for the consent decree to be lifted, attorneys for the city leave federal court.
Call the city attorney. She's the only one allowed to speak for the city.
Attorneys for the city argued that the consent decree had become a moving target, costing the city $16 million over 10 years. They said the NOPD implemented new hiring standards, procedures, and training under the consent decree and say it should be lifted.
We have a pending motion before the court. When that hearing is held, then we'll have a lot more to say at that time.
But in spite of the city's contention, consent decree monitors expressed concerns about continuing attrition issues and a lack of a plan to address them.
Essentially, the city is further away from substantial compliance today than we were at this point in time last year.
The consent decree monitor says the sexual assault clearance rate has plummeted from a dismal 11% to just 3% in 4 years. The monitor also says that police response times are regressing as well, now taking 5.5 hours on average. And the monitor says that when it comes to police investigations, they had concerns about appropriate credibility checks.
The reason is directly related to the manpower crisis. So as the numbers of officers go down, it means that fewer officers are doing more and more work.
Though this was not a hearing on whether or not the consent decree should be lifted, Federal Judge Susie Morgan repeated her concerns that the department could backslide if the consent decree was actually lifted.
Even if the city achieves its goal in getting the court to declare substantial compliance, it doesn't mean the consent decree is over.
Rafael Goyeneche says the consent decree isn't going away anytime soon. He says if and when the federal judge declares the city in substantial compliance, it will start a 2-year wind-down period, which means the department must maintain the improvements and document ongoing compliance.
All of the rules were agreed to going in. And the fact that 10 years later, this mayor decides that enough is enough is not going to be persuasive with the court to say that it's over with.
Federal Judge Susie Morgan told attorneys for the city to inform their client of her disappointment that Interim Superintendent Michelle Woodfork did not attend. Morgan said it's the first time in 10 years that the NOPD did not send a representative, and she said that apparent lack of interest is a concern.
It's Rob Masson reporting. Speaking on behalf of the city, Attorney Charles Zimmer said he was there as a representative of the NOPD. He insisted that the department has achieved compliance with the consent decree since they have adopted new policies, but the consent decree monitor says there is still a long way to